Today, we are going to talk about what it was like to get that diagnosis of cancer. And we're even going to talk about the topic that isn't talked about near enough when you get a diagnosis such as cancer. After you get your full bill of health, a lot of us would think, oh, that's when you start to celebrate. That's when things are okay and you don't worry anymore. But that's not always the case. So we're going to talk to her about that. Miss Lowry Marini says she is, but today we're going to talk about her survival tips on how she got through the diagnosis and then the full bill of health. How did she get through those? What does she tell people who want to help and love support someone else who maybe got one of these diagnoses? And what does she have to say about the medical profession in these cases when they're telling people and their patients about their conditions and how to help?
Right. So when I found myself on the other side of the table, it was really traumatizing. I never really understood what it was like until, I then was in that seat. I'll never forget it. Part of when I knew is I was having imaging done and they had me laying down on the table. There was this beautiful blue light above me and they were in my lymph nodes with a wand, like an ultrasound wand, and they were on image 65. So I worked with images every day of my career. And when I noticed that they were measuring lymph nodes, nobody needed to tell me what I was about to face. So in that moment, I remember being like, okay, this isn't good. What do you want to do when you get out of here? So I literally wrote my will, made my wish list. Like, if I don't get out of here, this is what I'm going to do. Made my wish list of when I get through this is definitely what I'm going to do.
Right.
And then just kind of mentally prepared myself for what was about to come, that I couldn't really expect what I didn't know, but I could at least set myself up to have a warrior mindset around it.
Awesome. And what can you say that besides doing the obvious treatments and medical things, what did you do kind of behind the scenes and maybe self-care that helped you along that process as well?
Yeah, that's such an important question because, when you're going through the motions of treatment, they have it planned out for you. You're just kind of showing up. But one of the things that I didn't expect was a year, especially 2 years out, was to get hit with a ton of bricks on the emotional component of it all. And I remember thinking, I have to stay positive here. Like, I can't go down the rabbit hole. I can't control anything that's about to happen to me. But what I can control is how I think about it. And so I actually started an Instagram page where I would do 365 days of gratitude. And so every day I would go through my life, take pictures of beautiful things that inspired me, things that I loved, that evoked a positive emotion from me. And then at the end of the day, I would go through my pictures and then write a little something about it and I would post it. And it's really what kept me grateful for another day of life. It's what kept me in a mindset of, you can do this. Like, you're not, you're not dead yet, right? I know that sounds terrible, but I still had another day. So how did I want to make this day count?
Yes. And so you went through, you had the warrior attitude, you got, your full bill of health. What happens at that point when they give you that full bill of health?
Yeah, it's actually kind of scary because you're like, what? That's it? What do you mean? No, I want another scan. No, you got to make sure. Right. And, 56% of all cancer patients have a fear of.
But I feel like it's so important to give the negative feelings a voice too, because they're real. They're your reality. They're your feelings. And I feel like we need to kind of give ourselves that time to process through them, to feel them. But then you have to pick yourself up and move on, or it's going to consume you and could really negatively affect the results of what you're trying to do. So I love that you gave yourself that time and you spoke of that, because I think that is absolutely huge.
I think as humans, we have to, right? I think we try to always expect that we're going to not have negative feelings around certain things. Right. But there's some things that happen in life, whether it's a divorce or a cancer diagnosis, it is real, it is raw, and it will shake you to the core, right? We've all have our versions of that. And to recognize that we're human, right? Part of what I recognized through this whole process is my loss of innocence. And also I was facing my mortality. And those are negative emotions, right? Where you're just filled with fear.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to confront that in order to make the choice, is really how I feel it. I can either be at the effect or I could be in charge, or at least feel like I'm somewhat in charge and in action, I guess is how I should say it.
Right.
And that fear is what's going to be the deciding factor for you.
Absolutely.
Is my tribe, right? And it's okay to do that. This process, whatever it is that you're going through right now, is going to change you. So you really need to examine, like, who are you now? Like, who are you in this moment now? I am not the same person I was 5 years ago before my diagnosis, right?
Right.
And you also need to figure out, like, what do you want? Okay, so this is who you are now. This is what you've gone through. And how do you want your life to look like? And like, what do you want and what do you not want? And also look at, where are you getting stopped? What is stopping you? Is it fear? Is it other people? Is it a lack of a plan? Right? There's so many reasons why people get stopped. And then once you recognize who you are, what you want, where you're getting stopped, then you can create the plan on how you're going to get to where you want to be. And then you just celebrate the small steps in between. And I think,
what do you tell their support team to help them the best?
You know, I get this question a lot of, like, how do I have these conversations? And the first thing I say is just listen. Like, you don't have to have the answers. You don't have to fix anything.
Right.
A lot of time what we just need is for somebody to just listen to the fact that we're afraid, listen to the fact that we have no idea what we're doing. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know why we're here, why we got put in this position. And so a lot of times is just listening, and really listening with empathy is really goes a long way. And then you'll find that from there, the world of creation can come. You could then have an open conversation of, well, what do you think the next best step is? How do you want to proceed? Do you want to have surgery? Do you want to have chemotherapy? Like, how does that work? And it allows a space for you to have just some really free conversation without anyone feeling like they're going to be either scolded or
interrogated.
Or misunderstood, or it's very scary. I have a hard time. I'm an open book, as you could tell, and I have a hard time telling people, like, I'm scared, right? Like, I'm scared. And so I need somebody to create that space for me so I can go and just really show up the way that I'm feeling and not hide it and not have the Band-Aids.
Right. What would you say you are most grateful for that comes out of those situations?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, I have to tell you that my journey with gratitude started 15 years ago. It was after I was at a point where I was just in a really low place. And so I've lived with no regrets, right? I have taken on, I'm going to do everything that I want to do now, and I'm not going to wait for tomorrow.
Head. Boom, redirect back to you. Boom, redirect. You heard it. You were there. So why should that football player listen to his critique if he wouldn't go to him for advice?
It's going to be a rockin' show.
That's right. The Sassy Sisters.
The Sassy Sisters are here.
You betcha.
All right, let's do this.